Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rejuvi 45. If you are joining us live today, watching our full recordings and or watching some of our reels that we post on our multiple social media accounts, you're here because you've heard this phrase called modern leadership and you're interested. And we're so glad that you're here because Rejuvi 45 is the community for modern leadership. And we believe that everyone can be both a compassionate human leader and fierce business leader at the same time. And we're working very hard to scale that across the globe. My name is Regina Hepp, and today I am joined by...
Well, of course, this is at the moment where I lose my voice. But I'm Harold Wiens, and I get to be the board chair when I have my voice or whether I don't. But
Yeah,
I'll be coming back, don't worry.
Exactly. Harold, we're so glad that you're here. And for those of you who have tuned in to Rejuvi 45 consistently, you'll know that we are in volume 3, and we are starting volume 4 in October of this year. But Harold has been with us several times. He's been with us at least once or twice in volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3, and we're so glad that he is. He does serve as Rejuvi's board chair. And one of the things we're going to talk to him a little bit about today is why he chooses to do that and the kinds of activities that he gets involved in during what I like to call rewirement. He is officially retired, but it's not a great word for you. I really think that rewirement is better.
Well, that's true. And when you mention being rewired, I always talked about leaving my 38 and a half year career at a major company as graduation or
Yes, you do.
rewirement. And one of the things I determined that during my rewirement years, I would not spend any time on inconsequential activities. And so I chose two specific areas of where I would prioritize my time after family, of course. And one of them is in leadership development, and the other one was in honoring seniors. And so when I have chosen, now I've been rewired for 18 years. And during that time, I have focused on those two areas.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that these two areas that you've chosen to focus on, leadership development and service to seniors, are so appropriate for our closing topic of Volume 3. So our topic today, our title today is called The Catalyst. And again, for those of you who are joining in today and who watch our programming, that we always do a little bit of planning, around a particular topic, and these topics can be kind of mixed and matched to create some energy for leaders and for businesses, like, how do they create a modern leadership movement in their organization? But today we have this subject called the catalyst. And Harold, I got to thinking about the way that we want to go through this. And I think that it is what we want to start to demonstrate is that a catalyst can be, a person, place, or thing. It doesn't have to be, necessarily a thing. Like the catalyst isn't only Rejuvi or a new way to think about modern leadership. It can actually be a person, a place, or a thing. And as you even think about your own rewirement, you continue to want to be a catalyst on behalf of, leadership development and the care and support of our seniors. Do you know what I mean? It gives a layered meaning to the word catalyst.
Well, it does. And one of the things I found out about we're not all naturally wired to wake up every morning wanting to change.
Mhm.
And sometimes a catalyst is just exactly what we need to shift our focus to a different direction, a different way, and to saying this needs to change. And Rejuvi, I've been blessed to work with Reg for quite a few years. I won't say how many, but I would say in the
It's
order
okay
of
if you
eight.
do. I think I'm gonna talk to Nick today about a significant experience where you were a catalyst for me. I'm taking you back to your hotel during a birthday party. So
Yes.
that was
Well, 8 to 10 years, and that whole time, one of the reasons I've enjoyed this whole experience is that we're moving forward in the area of being influential in real leadership development.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, I used to tell people many years ago that leadership there's several things it is not, and one of the things it is not is telling a bunch of people what to do. It's a lot more fundamental than that. We're going to get into that just a bit today.
Um, one of the things that I heard you say is that we're not necessarily wired, or some of us aren't necessarily wired to wake up and to change. And so we need something, to provide a bit of, you know, you know, to
Right.
to help us to help us get around the corner. There is a more technical definition of catalyst, and because you were educated as an engineer, and much of what you contributed to and led was so deeply connected to the engineering of products and processes and solutions for customers. Harold, if you had to describe, let's describe it like a fifth grader to me. How do you think about a catalyst?
Well, I'll start by saying that in my very first engineering job, we used catalysts to generate a particular reaction in a product that we were making. And without that catalyst, so that first one or two steps would not be taken. Now, one of the things that I found out that keeps people from leading is they're really not too sure where to take those first one or two steps. And knowing with certainty that you're ready is the biggest thing that keeps people from or leads people to become a leader. If you had seen me when I was 18 years old, you would have not said, "Here's a leader." But there are a number of experiences, and I'll share not too many of them, but enough to make the point today that you can learn,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
you can learn to be really good.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's kind of start there, because for me it kind of connects to this whole idea of a catalyst doesn't necessarily need to be a thing. It can be a person, a place, or a thing, right? It can be it can be people, it can be process, it can pipes. Leaders in and of themselves can be a catalyst for change. So, interestingly enough, people who have been around you, including your proteges, folks that you have had a significant role in shaping as leaders today, have said, and I am using a quote here, everything I've learned about leadership, I've learned from Harold Weems. And that is a direct quote from a CEO today. So, Harold, why is this? Why is it that someone so significant, a significant leader today, would say, everything I've learned about leadership, I've learned from Harold Weems?
Well, first of all, I'm delighted to hear that. The number of people with whom I've worked in very difficult situations, um, have learned fast. I've always said this: um, tough businesses require a lot of skill and they require a lot of leadership. I've had three significant business leadership experiences, and every single one of them required a turnaround of one kind or another. In other words, I had to come to a point that said something has to change. Well, the first something was always the people that I was working with. And I looked for the very best people I could find. And then we shared the challenges, the planning, the execution, and the follow up with each other. And in those situations, sometimes leaders need to, one of the most important things a leader can do is listen. I would encourage leaders in a business situation to listen to their customers first. And I'm going to go back, Reg, to a time in March of 1988, a long, long time ago. I was working for a major corporation in the computer data field. The largest company in the world at that point in time, still one of the big ones, came to me one day and said, we really need a product for you that you don't make, and we need it in 6 months. Normally, it would take us 18 months to make that product. Anyway, so I went back in internally. We had an all-day review, and at the end of the day, I concluded this could not be done. As I was walking out of that conference room, by the way, I was not a $10 opportunity. It was a $200 million opportunity. In 1988, that was a lot of money. We walked out of the conference room, and one of the engineering managers, who I had personally chosen several years before then, tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Harold, they didn't tell you everything." I said, "Please tell me now." And he did, and there was a new process under development, and I am a good enough engineer to understand that it might work. It did work, but we suddenly had to do something in 6 months that would normally take 18. We changed everything, and it worked. And in 6 months, we doubled the size of our business from 180 million to actually 400 million, so a bit more in 1 year's time. And it was some people would say it was a big risk. Well, I absolutely believed in that person's judgment. And then we confirmed it and made the decision together, and we committed the entire organization to achieving that goal for the customer. I can tell you that customer is still a customer, even though I haven't been at the company for 18 years. Mm-hmm. But so there comes a time, I would say, in leadership terms, you have to face up to the opportunity, and you have to know who to trust. And when you have learned to trust people, they also learn from you that you'll make a decision, support them, and but together we win or lose. I can tell you this is that we didn't lose.
Mm-hmm. I've heard pieces of this story, over the past decade from you, and I think that I learn something new every time that I listen to it. And again, when we think about why each of us has an opportunity to go about our leadership role, so that when we move to another chapter in our lives, someone else might say, everything I've learned from leadership, I've learned from this person, right? I've learned from Harold, I've learned from Reg, I've learned from someone else. And as I'm listening to you talk about this, it's like one of the things that I think that you've done is you always recognize when the moment calls for change, right? So you're walking into situations where, we might classically call it a turnaround scenario for our business. They are not growing and they're not growing sustainably, but it's a moment where something has to change. And I think that the next thing that I have heard you do, that I know that you do, is that you very quickly help people to understand the urgency of the change. And you consistently go back to the fact that the urgency of the change is about the customer.
It always is. I'm going to move through the second phase and move to the last one, where in the last job that I had was for 8 years, and it was overseeing a multi-billion-dollar business.
Mhm.
And for 2 years, I came to this business from an overseas assignment where I led a
Mhm.
Japanese company. I'll talk about it a little bit later. But I moved into this assignment, and it was a pretty traditional business. In about 2 years, though, after incremental improvement, I realized we were eventually going to die if we didn't change how we did business.
Yep.
How did I come to that conclusion? I took 2 weeks and I visited customers that had fired us. Let me tell you something else about a leader. A leader has always got to confront failure. You can be devastated by it, or you can learn from it and win. In this case, I visited customers for 2 weeks. I always asked them the same question. They said, your products are good, your service is good, your prices are high, but they're worth it. But when we throw a problem into the corporate center, we never hear about it again. So we knew we had to change and become much more simple. We went through an enormous change, took us 2 years. We simplified our business. Let me just give you a few numbers that will put it in perspective. We went from 11 vice presidents to 3. We went from 35 1-800 numbers to 1. We made it very easy to connect with our customers and to solve problems for our customers. Our vision was to be the first choice of customers worldwide, and our mission was to make them more profitable. I had, when you do something like this, communication with your team is about the most, and with customers is about the most vital thing that can be done. We took those 18 months to put together an 84-page plan that we executed, and we executed it really, really well. It was a time of massive change. But the customers, we made a very large change in 6 months with customer responsiveness. We went from them never hearing from us to solving their problems within an average of 2 days. How does that happen? People focused on the part of the business that pays us. Our company does not write our checks, our customers do. And so this is why Reg has heard me say that our mission statement, our vision statement has got to be centered around improving the lives of our customers. And when a leader decides to do that, and people understand it, you get the best out of everyone.
Well, one leader decides to do that is kind of the third thing, again, going back to this question about why would someone say about you, everything I've learned about leadership, I've learned from Harold Weens. And so as you think about how you have acted as a catalyst, first of all, you're careful to point out the moment, right? That some moments call for, catalytic behavior, right? Some moments call for that. Number two, you absolutely need to create a sense of urgency around that moment, and that sense of urgency has to be on behalf of the customer. Now, I think
Absolutely right.
there's just no other way to say it. I'm smiling a little bit here today because I can see those who have checked on, and we have Amela Imsirovich who is checked on. We can't see her on screen, but just a couple of Rejuvi 45 shows. And you actually had a chance to meet Amela at a leadership conference several years ago. But one of the things that she was here talking about the importance of creating energy for all leaders inside of a business. And we did a show called kind of Just Jump. And we started talking to her about, what she's learned about leadership and getting all leaders to just jump. And she said, you've got to do it on behalf of the customer. I think if we went back and did a tally of how many times she used the word customer inside of her philosophy on leadership, it would have been 25 times in a 45-minute conversation. So you just can't say that enough. We are in business because of our customers, and you have to create a sense of urgency around that in order for people to feel like, okay, this is a moment where, a catalyst, person, place, or thing is actually needed, to seize the moment. But here's the other thing, Harold, when you, for example, were talking about the time when you got some feedback or from a customer, or an opportunity from a customer who said, we need some help. We need this from you, but we don't want to wait 18 months. We need it in 6 months. And so you pull together a group of your leaders, and you determine that it can't be done, right? The meeting ends and everybody goes about their way, but somebody stays back and they say to you, I wasn't truthful with you. I didn't tell the whole story. Harold, I want you to talk a little bit about that, because to me, that's a third very important piece of the equation here, of the kind of how to think about being a catalyst. It's not just recognizing the moment. It's not just establishing the urgency around the customer, right? And making it very, 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 very simple, streamlined, in order for the customer to have their pains and their gains served. But what have you learned about creating that moment where people decide, I'm putting my skin in the game, right? I want skin in the game, right? I am stepping up to tell the truth, because we can do that. What have you noticed about things that encourage more people to step up, to also want to be a catalyst to make things happen on behalf of the customer?
I would say this, the principal element is for people to feel safe with coming forward with the truth. I have no time for half truths, and so I don't practice them myself. And I, as the leader, I've been the leader for a long time. The leader always takes ultimate accountability for success and failure. I always told people, I'm 100% responsible, but I need your best, most honest input. And don't be afraid to tell me bad news. You'll never get in trouble with me for telling me bad news. Bad news is an opportunity in disguise. And it can be bad news if you sit on it. But bad news, if you get to the bottom of it quickly, you will win. I remember when I was a very young engineering manager and we learned how to do designed experiments. It was a big deal. My group did 72 designed experiments in 3 months. Know how much we learned? Zero. And that was a wake-up call. And I said to myself, why is that? And I realized that we did not understand the science. We were simply being statisticians. And so it was kind of easy. I said, we're never doing this until we understand the science we're trying to prove or disprove. Once we did that, it was amazing what happened. Well, you could say, let's throw design experiments out the window. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that we didn't know what we were doing. And that's fixable. Now, I remember when I was leading this large subsidiary, 2 weeks after I got there, I found out they were 5 years into a 10-year plan to double in size. We hadn't grown by one penny in 5 years. So we had now 5 years to double in size. I asked my boss, are we still on for this? He said, yes, you are. And so I went around to every one of the 3,100 employees, not one at a time, but in groups, and asked them, do you remember this program? Yes, we do. Do you know, yeah, I'm here to give you a progress report. So far in the first 5 years, we haven't grown at all, zero. Mm-hmm. We have a big problem. Mm-hmm. And then I waited until I saw signs of comprehension. And then I said, I'm going to come up with a plan in 6 weeks to double, but I will need your help. Mm-hmm. Now, this was not a small company. It was nearing $2 billion. Mm-hmm. And so I put together a plan. I went around and we reviewed it with everyone. And I got to be in that job 3 more years. We didn't double in size, but we did hit double digits.
Mhm.
A company that was $2 billion that hadn't grown at all in 5 years started to grow and grow profitably.
Mhm.
How did that happen? I told them I would be 100% responsible for the results
Mhm.
and that I would need their best efforts.
Mhm.
And then we set about putting the best people in the hardest jobs.
Mhm.
And that was done pretty easily.
Mhm.
Um, in on November 20th, I'm going back there
Mhm.
after having not been there for 18 years.
Mhm.
I'm going to visit with my old team and with some key customers.
Mhm.
Um, why?
It's it's really in my mind, this is worth me interrupting you just a little bit because this is significant, right? So we have a CEO now saying, I want to pass on, some of the things that I've learned to this new generation of leaders, right? Because everything that I've learned about leadership, I've learned from Harold Weems, and I think that it's absolutely significant. And I wanna kind of um, talk a little bit about this thing that you've talked about. You had all these designed experiences and you knew the data, but you really weren't learning anything from the process. And you and I have had a lot of really great conversation about, when you are working with your team of leaders and you collectively recognize that this is a moment, right? This is a moment to make some things happen, and to move forward, with a lot of spring in your step because you're doing it on behalf of the customer. But for people to want to step up and to have skin in the game, it's not only important for them to feel safe, as you suggested. I would also offer that they have to be inspired, that they're going to learn about, and that they are going to be allowed to play both offense and defense on behalf of their business. Do you know what I mean, Harold? And so I think that what happened, if you take a look at all these designed experiences, all of this data, everybody could read the data from this chart, but what the lessons were because of all these experiences and how it informed your future were, the big goose egg. Well, I would offer that sometimes people fall in love with the design, right? They fall in love with the process. They fall in love with the actual work, and this actual process oriented work. And what they're not encouraged to do is to start to think about playing offense and defense on behalf of their business. And so when you start to talk about, you didn't know what the team didn't necessarily know what the work was, it's the leader stepping forth and really starting to help them to understand, we have an opportunity here to not only grow our business into the future, right? Now, how are we going to do that? But number two, how are we going to do it so that it's sustainable and streamlined for the customer, but sustainable for us as a people? And I think when you can create those, this is so awesome. We as leaders get to play offense and defense at the same time. That creates so much energy. People want a piece of that. People want to play like that. People want to work in organizations like that. In addition to feeling like they have the safety and the security to tell the truth about some of the kookiness that has gone on beforehand, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing you say. And I think that our conversations have emerged into, you can be a catalyst, as a leader, right? By recognizing the moment, you can be a catalyst by suggesting, and showing people that there's urgency on behalf of the customer. But you also have to help people to tell the truth, and you have to get them excited about playing offense and defense on behalf of their business. And if you can't do those things, you're not going to have this kind of maximum lift that you want inside of the organization.
Absolutely right. And one of the things I will say is part of telling the truth. A truism for me is that it's very easy to have a vision. It's
Mhm.
not so easy to know where you are.
Mhm.
It's a funny thing that we settle for not knowing where we are. If you go to Google Maps and you want to get somewhere, the first thing you have to put in is your location, present location. And Google knows where that is.
Mhm.
Uh, but you yourself, if you don't know it, you're not going to get where you want to be.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I've always focused on is, in Reggie talked about honesty. Um, when a leader starts out in the business, you have to honestly know what value that you provide to your customers. And from there, you can work on being the first choice of customers worldwide. You won't be the only choice, but if you can be the first choice, things will work out. Now, one of the biggest business problems that we had to solve when we made this change was getting people to understand that the customer value was the desired outcome, not the process that we used to get there.
Mhm.
You can work in teams all day long, and if you don't provide superior customer value, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And so what the people work on has to be problems customers need solved,
Yeah. Yeah.
or opportunities that you help the customers to generate. There's a very large customer of ours that I had a long conversation with one day, and things were going really well. So there weren't many problems to work on. But I said, you know what? One of these days, you're going to run up against a problem you don't know how to solve.
Mhm.
And I want you to give me a chance,
Mhm.
when that day comes up, to see if we can come in alongside you and work it out together. That day came about a year and a half later, and it was a very significant technology issue for
Mhm.
which we had the expertise to provide a solution.
Mhm.
So when I talk sustainability, and sustainability is very necessary for preserving our planet and
Mhm.
also for recognizing the dignity and value of people. I would say that creating customer value sustainably um, is the one that really will drive all the rest.
Mhm.
And so let's start there. And you start there by knowing where you are and how you will provide real value to a customer.
Mhm. You had said something as we were prepping for today, and I want to get it out and read it. You said it's a lot easier to have a vision than it is to know where you are in relationship to the vision. I think so many people get stuck there. I think that it is exciting for us to start to define our senses of vision and kind of where we want to go. But it's so hard if you don't know where you're at in in relationship to it, because you create so much swirl because you don't know how to move forward if you don't know where you're at.
Yeah, I think the thing that we need to get over there is when you duck accountability, you lose the ability to know where you are because you're trying to make an excuse.
Mhm.
So as a leader, you have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And your people should not see you making excuses. Uh, you have to believe that you truly have what it takes to win.
Mhm.
And if you don't have it yet, you need to go get it.
Mhm.
Um,
I have one more significant question for you. But before we get there, I see kind of a comment from our audience, and I want to read it to you because I think it's
Good.
a nice way to start to transition into the next question. This person writes, leadership is about knowing other leaders. When I met Harold Weens, within 5 minutes of our introduction, he mentioned, oh, you're one of those who works until the midnight oil runs out. For me, this was a vote of confidence to continue my leadership path, and a Harold Weens statement that's so striking indeed. There you go.
I don't know who that was, but I would love to hear from you.
Mhm. So that was from Amela Imsirovich. And so but she's right. Leaders know leaders. And I think that as we get into this last question, which is going to take us a little bit into a little bit of a different path, But leaders do know leaders, and leaders are going to are themselves catalysts, but they're also going to create catalyst behavior in others by 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 recognizing the moment for what it is, right? And by creating a sense of urgency on behalf of the customer, and by ensuring that all voices, have a chance not only to be heard, but to have an opportunity to put their skin in the game, right? That's being a catalyst and creating more catalysts. Um, um, Being a leader, creating more leaders inside of any organization. So you have described for me often that you left this your last organization. Well, that's I can't even say left your last organization, because even since you graduated, well, I guess what I'm trying to say is when you left the organization that you were with a long time, and you said you graduated from that organization, and then you went on to commit yourself to consequential kind of activities. And so I often describe that as Harold Weems isn't retired, he's rewired. So you have chosen again to work on consequential activities. You have chosen to work in areas of developing other leaders, and in areas where you are in service of senior people. Um, Harold, tell us how it's going, and tell us how your decision informs your hope for the future.
Well, I do believe that accountable leadership, accountable, confident leadership, accountable, confident leadership that understands it's a team is rare. It's kind of shocking to me, but it seems to be rare. How's it going? Well, I wasn't 60 years old yet when I graduated. And so I spent the next decade on doing not-for-profit boards, university, senior citizens, etc. And also within that came on a lot of mentoring opportunities. Anyone that wants to chat with me about leadership, I'll be glad to spend an hour, and we'll have some coffee, and we'll talk about it. And so to the degree that people are interested in truly developing, I'm willing to spend an unlimited amount of time. I think this has happened. I know this has happened with scores of leaders. They come my way. And my objective is to not turning everyone into a CEO. I think we can all lead exactly where we are. I had a wonderful talk with our 17-year-old granddaughter not long ago, who is a National Merit Scholar. And she was a little disturbed that she wasn't elected to any of the official leadership positions. And I listened to her and I said, you'll be doing a lot of leading, no matter what your official position is, because of the quality of your ideas. And that, in the end, is going to beat any election by people that don't know you. I would say that to anybody. You will be leading no matter what your title is. You have that opportunity. And my encouragement to you is know where you want to go, especially know where you are, and then seek out people who can help you develop a plan. That's what I've been doing I'm now 78 years old. And in the decade of my 70s, I've done for-profit boards. And I'm doing the same thing no matter what my responsibility is on the board. I have served as an interim CEO for 6 months once when our board was looking for a new one, in a job in which people's confidence needed to be restored. That is not rocket science. It's being respectful, inspirational, accountable, and and more important than anything else, pick the right team.
Mhm.
Uh, People perform best when they're excited, capable, and have a plan.
Mhm. I want to go back to your granddaughter for just a moment. And so, because I think that what you're doing for people, I asked you this question about how is this going for you? How is this consequential activity going for you in your retirement years? And how does this inform hope? And, what I see you doing is a little bit like the man who planted trees, right? I don't know if you've ever watched that film before, read that book, but it's a man who takes a desolate territory and he creates this wonderment of water and trees, over time. And that's what I see you doing, which to me is very hopeful. But you're doing it one leader at a time. So let me talk about your granddaughter. So she's a National Merit Scholar, and which in and of itself is a gigantic achievement. But she's feeling frustrated, like she's feeling a little hurt because she doesn't get elected to maybe that group of merit scholars. She's not their, president or their vice president, as they work together as a team. And you're giving her this feedback. Harold, how could she take that in? Could someone who is obviously doing very well, she's demonstrating leadership, she's disappointed, but could she hear you when you're giving that feedback?
Absolutely. In fact, she reminded me that I said that not long ago. She's, she's a remarkably capable young woman. Uh,
Mhm,
and and like any young leader, I mean, she's miles ahead of where I was at that age.
mhm.
But
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, but just the encouragement that uh, I would just encourage everybody to do this is, the day that I graduated, I found myself very unexpectedly the next day going through all of my suit coat pockets and my sport coat pockets and throwing away my business cards. Why? It wasn't because I didn't like my job. I loved it. I
Mhm.
retired because I wanted to spend time with my family. As that was my one and only goal. And why did I would just say the bottom line message from that is my wife said she thought I would go crazy leaving working full time, and I didn't. I was happy. I still am happy. And the reason was I never let myself get mixed up with my title. And my encouragement to you is be right with yourself, and your title and your job will take care of itself. I would also say that if you learn from Rejuvi, I will say this is the tool that Rejuvi uses nailed my leadership styles perfectly, strengths and weaknesses. By the way, leaders also have to know that they have weaknesses. I do. And I always get people that are really good at doing what I can't do. And then I trust them.
Well, I love that so much by focusing on your granddaughter, because I think it goes back to our title of the closing session of volume 3 of Rejuvi 45, and that is a catalyst. A catalyst can be a person, it can be a place, it can be a thing, but it really happens at kind of a cellular level, right? So it doesn't matter what your title is, right? It doesn't matter what level you're at. What you have to pay attention to is the moment, right? What you have to pay attention to is that direct line to creating urgency on behalf of the customer, right? And you have to figure out how to amplify your voice and your skin in the game opportunities for the place that you're at. We sometimes will use this phrase. It's a little bit of a fancier phrase, and we call it about, you know, in in current times, leadership has been democratized. Organizations are asking more people to step up, in this at this cellular level to create some leadership, just like you're talking to your granddaughter, what can you do from where you're at right now and be strong. You're going to continue to have so many leadership opportunities. I think that that creates so much hope for me about what's really happening is that organizations are asking people, more people to lead from where they are at inside of the organization. And what I also see happening is that because of companies like Rejuvi, we're creating more education to help them feel confident in the role that they're at today. In the past, we have had too many leaders who have said, I'm excited about my job, but I don't have a mentor. I don't have the skills that I need to do this exciting thing. And the culture that we have inside the organization doesn't support where I think that we need to go. And so the education that now and processes that now exist to help all of these people, because leadership has been democratized, does build that confidence in all parts and pieces of the organization, in all the cells, so that overall the organization can get to this place that it's growing, it's sustainable, all is good, not only for the customers, but for the people who serve them each and every single day. That's the catalyst.
That's the truth. And Reg, if I can tell one more very short story,
Yep. Yep.
um, I just want to make the point that a leader's got to be concerned with every member of their organization.
Mhm.
I will never forget going through one of my 200 factories and in South Carolina. They're not all in South Carolina, but a number of years ago, and I was walking by one of the packaging lines, and one of the workers on the packaging line looked up at me with tears on her face, and she asked me if she was doing a good job.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
People really, really need to understand
Mhm.
um, that that you have confidence in them. When you give them the tools for them to be confident, um, it's a wonderful thing for themselves and for their whole families. Now we're in business to create customer value, but I think along the way we can teach our employees, give them a great measure of self-respect and achievement uh, by letting them earn it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that'll make a team more excited than believing you have a vision that results in a sustainable business. A sustainable business benefits everyone,
Yeah.
including every
Um,
employee.
Yeah, the one story that you're talking about, the individual, the leader at the factory, that particular scenario, are the most painful for me to hear. And so I understand why you're getting choked up, because they choke me up too. Because people shouldn't have to wonder about whether or not they're doing a good job. People shouldn't have to wonder about whether or not they're making a difference. People shouldn't have to wonder about whether or not they are acting as a catalyst inside of their organization. And so, for me personally, as a leader, though, and the developer of leaders and someone who is committed to scaling modern leadership across the globe, those are the most painful situations for me to hear about for someone who is working so hard, who doesn't know about the successes that they're creating in their scenario, in their world. What a squandered opportunity, right? What a squandered opportunity to provide executive leadership. What a squandered opportunity to express gratitude for someone who's been exhibiting catalyst behavior on behalf of their customer. It's a squandered opportunity. For me, Harold, those are the most painful.
And for me too, one of my jobs early in my career was that of a plant manager.
Mhm.
I had 600 people in my plant.
Mhm.
And I have, throughout my career, I've always had code of conduct rules. And
Mhm.
one of mine for this plant was I would talk with every plant employee at their place of work every 2 weeks.
Right.
And I don't mean talk to, I mean talk with.
Yep. Yep.
And when you do that, you can build a team pretty well. Now, it's not just up to one leader. I wasn't the only leader in the plant, but when you see the person that's in charge doing things, the leaders between you and the people pushing the brooms,
Mhm.
uh, all pick it up
Yep.
because
Yeah.
they can see the benefit.
Yep. Hear, hear. Thank you for taking the time to share that one more story because again, it's an important one. Harold, thank you so much for, we always position you as one of the closing sessions for every volume of Rejuvi 45. And so we expect to be together next August or September in our closing session in volume 4. You are meaningful, so meaningful to us. Thank you. And I'm so grateful that you continue to help us be better as an organization and that we continue to find the venues to bring your important voice so that we can create all kinds of fun cellular catalyst behavior all across the globe. So thank you so much for that.
And you're so welcome. It's for me, it's a privilege to be a part of this. It truly is. Thank you.
You're welcome. And for everyone joining us today or watching in our session, thank you so much for being here. As you grow in your own modern leadership capability, as you grow in and take more accountability for growing modern leadership inside your organization, know that create those movements. And so the next time you are participating or engaging with our content, bring someone with you so that we can make the growth a little bit faster. This does bring together a close for Rejuvi 45 Volume 3, which was completed in 2023 and 2024. And we are grateful for every single moment. We will be back in the first Thursday offhand. I don't know which what the date is, but we'll be back the first Thursday in October of 2024 with the start of Volume 4, and we will be back to the topic called a leadership festival. Until that time, be well, and we will talk soon.